got baby oil. Oh, I ran bunker buster video as well.
And guess what? I don't care what the bookies say. It's all down to 12 jurors. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. And thank you for being with us. We are headed to a verdict.
I'm a little bit offended with the case. It's a trial of Diddy doing. It's just a trial of real TV.
Sorry.
Let's get straight to the outstanding by. It's Teaser Tales for our Teaser Tales on YouTube. Teaser, thank you for being with us. It's my understanding that early this morning, leading into closing statements, Sean Hunt looked like he was, quote, walking on air. What?
The courtroom was shocked. This man came floating in the air, twinkle toes, just dancing too. We have never seen this man in a better mood. Everything that's happened, the attempted charges that have been dropped from the jury verdict, they have him in the best of spirits. This is a man that thinks he's going to walk away. This is a man that thinks his $20 million law team did their job. This is a man that thinks he has avoided justice.
Teaser Tales, tell me what else happened in the courtroom today.
What happened today shocked everyone. The prosecution came in strong. They made a clear, concise case. Didn't see him, he was walking on air, walking in. You saw his body language slump. They made such an excellent case to actually map out and hold our hands like we were 3-year-olds and needed help across the street. What the Combs enterprise was, how he commanded and controlled everything and everybody, and how they were nothing but an apparatus made to fulfill every sexual, deviant desire he had. It really came together today in court.
At the beginning, they referred to
That's the best tower downtown right there.
Slavic refers to Sean Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise and someone who, quote, doesn't take no for an answer. Describe what she was telling the jury and how the jury responded. That's what Slavic said straight out of the gate.
She said he doesn't take no for an answer, and he wants what he wants. When she said that, she went into a list of all the predicate crimes. She said kidnapping, arson, slavery, with sexual assault, bribery, sex trafficking.
I think if they do find him guilty, he's going to ask for a mistrial.
And when that happened, she went in like a battering ram, and the jury was up. The jury was paying attention. They had to look past out. They were leaning in. They were so locked in. The prosecution woke the jury up, and they couldn't get enough.
Teaser Tales, Slavic did something I thought was brilliant. She almost immediately took the jury to two of the most violent attacks on women in order to force them to perform sexually. Of course, one has to be Cassie Ventura's attack.
Ready to lose the hat and regrow the hair?
Cassie Ventura's attack at the Intercontinental Hotel. That's the strongest one because there's video evidence. You don't have to take her word for it. You can see it on the close-up TV there at the Intercontinental. But she also took the jury to the moment that Jane, not her real name, was brutally attacked and covered in welts all over her body, a beating by Sean Combs, after which he told her to get back in the ring and perform oral sex on a male escort, despite her protests. What did she say exactly, and how did the jury respond? What were they doing?
She showed a screenshot of the moment we saw Cassie be brutally beat. And she said, I want to take you to 2 moments.
The defense team finished up their close, and at the very end, attorney Mark Agnifilo asked the jury to acquit Sean Diddy Combs of all of the charges and to send him home to his family. And with that, you know, there are listening rooms because the main courtroom is packed. That's where I was this morning. And then there are these overflow rooms. There are multiple overflow rooms packed full of people from the public, from the media. So many people converging on New York City because of this trial. And in one of the rooms, I can confirm to you that when Mark Agnifilo finished, the room erupted in cheers. Everyone in the room started cheering loudly, clapping. When his closing argument was finished. Mark Agnifilo giving that close on behalf of Diddy's legal team. Numerous lawyers taking part in this process for him, and from what we understand, Diddy was quite pleased with that closing argument. Now we're in the government's rebuttal, so that is currently taking place in the courthouse behind me. Diddy's trial happening at the very top floor of this building. We're in the Southern District of New York, and they actually have 2 federal courthouses, Michael and Ashley. This is one of them, the larger one. It is beautiful inside, and it is very hard to get a seat in that courtroom. But I will tell you, when I was in there this morning, Diddy looked to be in very good spirits. I saw him looking back at his children right before court started, giving them a big smile. And then during the break, when everybody was in the morning recess, people were milling about the courtroom and talking. The judge was off the bench, and I saw one of his twin daughters hand a piece of paper to attorney Tenny Garagos, Mark Garagos' daughter, who's one of the attorneys on the Diddy team. And she then handed that paper to Diddy, and he read whatever was on it, and then he turned back around, looked at his daughter, smiled really big, and did a little bit of a fist pump, like to indicate, yeah, whatever it was, he seemed to be very happy about it. His mom looked to be in good spirits. I saw her leaving the courtroom during the break. I said hello to her. She said hello back. They all seem to be really leaning on each other, relying on each other for support, as his freedom, Michael and Ashley, is on the line. If he's convicted of that sex trafficking charge, it could be 15 years mandatory minimum. And there are 2 of them, one pertaining to Cassie, as you know, and one pertaining to Jane. And if he's convicted of the racketeering, could potentially
Julie, I gotta say, tell me if I'm wrong. I want to get
look
your
at the
opinion on this.
diabolical
It seems to me
potential.
the overriding
They always give P. Diddy diabolical.
defense was essentially that this was
Right
an
up here.
overreach by the prosecution, that this was
fuck
about
happened?
government going into somebody's bedroom, someone like Sean Diddy Combs, and although it's admittedly a bit of a bizarre sex life, it is his personal life. It didn't extend beyond that. Would you say that's a fair sort of assessment of the way they sort of characterized this approach to the prosecution?
Yes, Michael, you're exactly right. And I have to tell you both, Mark Agnifilo did a brilliant job connecting with the jury on that point. He is very engaging. His close was much different than the government's. The government, I have to say, while they were very thorough, very polished, very matter of fact, it was a little stiff. He talks to the jury just like he would be talking to someone at the breakfast table, maybe someone in his family. He cracks little jokes, and one of them actually pertained to this point you just raised, Michael. So he was saying how the federal government essentially invaded Sean Combs' private life and turned his bedroom life into a crime scene. And he joked, and I have to tell you, I saw 3 jurors crack up when he said, thank goodness the federal government got all of that Astroglide off the streets. They went in and they seized all those bottles of Astroglide and baby oil. Thank goodness we are safe from all of that.
We're safe from that Astroglide.
And 3 jurors, I saw all 3 of them, 2 women, younger black women, and then one, I would say, middle-aged white man. All 3 of them cracked up and had big smiles on their face with that joke. And that was just one of the examples where we saw Mark Agnifilo really connecting with them and making this seem ridiculous that government would try to criminalize these desires to have sex involving multiple partners at hotels using baby oil or whatever else they want to use. He described it as Diddy being not the only one making homemade porn, so to speak, that this was just his lifestyle. It was a valid lifestyle, Michael, is what the defense team argued very strongly this morning.
And if you would, Julie, remind us too how he balanced that with admitting some of the things that Diddy has done that aren't okay, by using the video, for instance, and the domestic violence piece.
Sure, Judge, thank you for that. Yes, he acknowledged that Diddy committed terrible acts of domestic violence, and he went so far as to say if he were charged with those crimes, that he would be pleading guilty to them because he did them, and he said from the start of this trial, we have owned that. He did something that surprised me. I have to say, I thought he may kind of stay away from this hotel beating video, maybe just acknowledge it. He actually showed portions of it, Ashley and Michael, but not this portion right here that we're looking at. What he showed everyone was a cell phone in Cassie's hand when she initially left that hotel room. And you have to look really close. I want you to pay attention to that mirror on the wall. It's going to be coming up on your right or left, and you'll see the reflection of it. See it there? It looks like it's a white face. Hard to see. And look at Diddy's hands. Nothing in his hands as he goes to Cassie.
That's like an American Horror Story.
To say, hey, this was terrible, this was illegal, this was wrong and inexcusable. But it was not about bringing her back to the room to traffic her. Look at his hand now. He's got the phone. He said this was about retrieving that cell phone that she took when she shouldn't have. That's what he said. He said the phone he believes.
He said, get back in that freak off.
The reason he got so enraged
Towel around the
and went
waist.
after her and he saw that terrible attack. So that was quite an illuminating portion of the argument, I would say, because we've looked at that video, I don't know how many dozens and dozens of times, and with her sweatshirt sleeve, unless you're looking at that mirror, it's really hard to see what she had in her hand, or even to notice how he retrieved something. So perhaps that argument will be effective, perhaps not, in terms of whether the jury considers it sex trafficking.
Julie, one final thing I wanted to ask, it kind of jumped out at me. Closing argument by the defense, and that was a point where Mariette Niccolo said basically the winner in all this, because she got $20 million, she talks about it, the real winner in all this is Cassie Ventura. And I kind of took a quick back, I was taken aback by that because of all that went on with We Get Money, we do know some horrible things did in fact happen to her. He even talked to her, said, look, we admit to the domestic violence and the violence in the relationship, yet he called her the one winner. I wonder if you had any notice as how did the jurors react to that? I thought that might have been a miss.
Michael, I'm so glad you brought that up. That was quite a moment. And I've got a little more for you both. Wait for this. So when he brought that up, he started with saying that this was not a quest for justice for Cassie, but this was a quest about money. And we all know about the $30 million lawsuit that you filed, which was the catalyst for this case. And Niccolo argued that had it not been for that lawsuit, then we wouldn't have this federal case here and now. And when he noted that Cassie is the winner in all this, he said that Diddy is the loser because he's the one who wound up in jail. And Ashley and Michael, I was a little bit stunned at that because, as you both know, the government cannot mention that he's incarcerated. The judge cannot mention that. We usually don't see defense attorneys mentioning that, but here he did. He took a moment, he gestured toward his client and said to the jury, do you see that handsome man sitting behind Mr. Combs? That man is a U.S. Marshal. And he said that man is one of the agents who's tasked with taking him to and from his jail cell every day. When Cassie won, and she's somewhere around the world right now with $30 million, Sean Combs is locked up behind bars. And so that was quite a moment for two reasons. The jury learned that Diddy's incarcerated. They had no idea. Now he sits in the courtroom every day in his sweaters, looking very nice. They never see him brought in or handcuffed. And then two, as you both know, we never heard what the settlement amount was. It seems to me that Mariette Niccolo might have let the cat out of the bag because we know she asked for $30 million, but it was settled for an undisclosed amount. But today he said that she is somewhere around the world $30 million richer.
He offered me, in the alternative, the amount that he paid his dog broker I have been using the GLP-1 injections through hers for 4 months. I have lost 30 pounds.
Hers has changed my life. They were there for me.
I didn't have that food noise in the back of my head anymore. I feel much more comfortable with myself now.
I have lost.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. Today was finally the day that the government finally stood up and said enough. The day prosecutors looked the jury dead in the eye and told them, quote, "It is time to hold Sean Diddy Combs accountable."
Such a
And the
diabolical
courtroom
picture.
was packed. There were 3 overflow rooms that were shoulder to shoulder, and you could feel it in the air. The tension, the pressure, the weight of what was coming. Every row was full. Friends, lawyers, journalists, and for the first time in weeks, Diddy's entire family was there. All of his children and his mother and his cousins, all of them. There were whispers that the mothers of many of his children were seated nearby as well. And they all heard the same thing. The prosecution outlined step by step how the man sitting at defense table had for decades used money, power, and fear to get what he wanted. And when he didn't, the prosecutor said, quote, "He wouldn't take no for an answer." And that line, they said it 16 times. The judge was strict. No one was allowed to move in that courtroom. U.S. Marshals warned, if you leave, you are not coming back in.
Oh no.
So, as Caroline has mentioned, President, first of all, I want to let you know that I'm the only African reporter accredited here at the White House over for the entire continent. So I just arrived from Kenya, Democratic Republic of Congo, yesterday. I went to see firsthand how the people is feeling and the president's message, President Felix Tshisekedi, about this upcoming peace deal. And let me tell you firsthand what I've witnessed myself. I spoke with the people in the street.
Move in that courtroom. U.S. Marshals warned, if you leave, you are not coming back in. No bathroom breaks, no cell phones, no second chances, because this was closing arguments. This was the government's final summation. And yeah, I know they'll get a rebuttal after the defense because they have the burden of proof, but you know what I mean. Like, this is it. And when that now infamous hotel video played yet again in court, the one that shows Diddy beating the hell out of Cassie Ventura, the jury didn't flinch, and neither did Diddy's family. But one of Diddy's twin daughters looked pretty shocked when the prosecutor showed photos of the black Escalade, the one linked to the drive-by at Kid Cudi's house. And according to reports inside the courtroom, when the arson photos came up, the charred porch, the slashed roof, she looked like she might cry. Kind of odd considering all of the other evidence in this case, and so much of it summarized today in just under 5 hours. Today the prosecution laid it all bare in a simple roadmap that is easier to follow than Waze. The drugs, the freak-offs, the threats of violence, and the system.
Like, subscribe, share, thumbs up, yo. Freak offs. No party like a Diddy party, I guess. So.
Yes, like a criminal enterprise. And I'm going to take you through all of it. So make sure you're comfy. All of it started with Assistant U.S. Attorney Christy Slavic standing to address the jury. She told them that this was not just a case about bad behavior or even isolated criminal acts. She said this was about organized crime, racketeering. And she told the jury that she would walk them through all 5 counts against Sean Diddy Combs. And that she did.
Oh, big sausage.
She started with count 1, racketeering conspiracy, the heart of the case, the very charge that would elevate Diddy from a